Good afternoon and welcome to MCIEF Truck Stop, a webinar for all folks interested in good things going on at MCIEF. And today we have a blockbuster. Hello, everyone. My name is John Love, and let me start right off by saying I say a prayer of thanks to my predecessor, Joe Huddlemeyer, who ran MCIEF at a time when there's no telling where we would be, Tommy, if it weren't for the leadership that Joe gave our organization. And so here we are in 2022 with a great group of volunteers that I would call them disciples of the Kingpin. Everybody that has joined us today is only here because they're here for a lot of reasons. But if you go back to the beginning of time, Tommy, everybody that's here today is here because of your influence upon their lives with regard to trucking insurance. What I tell people that don't have a clue about what we do, and that's most everybody we know, wouldn't you all agree? They have no idea what we do. I say, well, they say, what does Tommy Ruke do? I said, he takes a subject that no one cares anything about and that everyone would run away from because it's the last thing that they really would like to sit down and, become completely, how shall you say, immersed, and makes it not just interesting, but makes us all kind of insurance geeks. I'm a proud insurance geek and a happy friend of Tommy Ruke. I'd like to introduce our panel. There are 4 members of the MCIEF board who have joined us today. And seriously, for a moment, to everyone listening, if you've worked on volunteer boards, here's the point. This is your paycheck, right? This is how much you want 100% of what Drew's getting. He'll be happy to endorse the check right over. It's no money out of his pocket. Most volunteer boards, you might have a person or two that, will give to the cause because it's something they really believe in, but their interest will probably fade. For 10 years, I've been involved with MCIEF, and I'm going to tell you that as a volunteer board, Tommy, every individual, every single one that you have asked to be on your board and that it serves today or served from day one is not just a leader. They're not just a bright, shining star of what trucking insurance can and should be, but they've given a ton to MCIEF, an absolute ton. And I'm going to let you comment on that. But to start, I'd like to introduce everyone and then one at a time and let them tell us a little bit about themselves, how you met Tommy. And we're talking about the 10th annual meeting of MCIEF to be held at the Hyatt Hotel at the airport in Orlando on October 5th through 7th, Wednesday through Friday of this coming year. I'm going to introduce first an old friend, and I don't mean that in a bad way, Mr. Craig Lack, who is the owner and president of Carrier Software. Craig, tell us something about yourself and Tommy.
Oh, thank you, John, for the introduction. Yeah, I'm involved in Carrier Software, and I'll say I met Tommy, I looking back probably about a dozen years ago, because we were supporting a lot of retail agents with truck insurance marketing and education, and I was invited to an agent up in New Jersey, and when I went into their little conference room, Tommy was sitting there, and I was like, who's this guy? And got to know him through that, and some great ideas came out, and I think our friendship just sort of sparked because I'm a data analyst by training. I love to process information, and Tommy was a great partner in giving me ideas that we should look to develop. So we do nothing but software development based on feedback from MCIEF. That's why I've enjoyed being a member ever since the inception.
So you've been to basically every annual conference of MCIEF, is that fair?
I've been at every conference. I've been an instructor in several dozen of the courses, and I try to participate in all the events I can because it provides great value to myself as just everyone says about networking, but it's actually building connections. If you don't know something in a particular niche, you can meet them at an MCIEF event. If you don't know about some markets, you'll find them at an MCI event.
Well, I'm glad y'all found each other. That's all I know. and really, Craig does a lot of things, including tell us how to turn on our computers when we need help sometimes, and that would relate to maybe even the Kingpin himself and some help that we need every once in a while, right, Tommy? I'd like to introduce
the father of the Truckers U. He made Truckers U happen too, which we'll always be appreciative of that.
Yeah, we'll get to Trucking U because that's a big part of MCIEF, and we got big plans for you, Craig. So don't put your feet up on the desk quite yet. How about that, buddy?
Hey, as long as you don't cut my paycheck any smaller, I'll be there.
Drew will give you half of his, won't you, Drew?
Yeah.
And speaking of Drew, here's our newest board member, or one of two. Randy and Drew joined about the same time. Drew Easton with Amwins Transportation. And I got to tell you, Drew, from the moment that we've met, your enthusiasm and expertise. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Nobody knows this. Brenda doesn't even know this. Tommy says, I got to ask Drew. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I didn't think Tommy had to ask anybody anything about anything to do with trucking insurance. So, Drew, you're in a very, very elite group. Drew Easton, tell us something about yourself, your relationship with Tommy, and the annual meeting coming up.
Well, first and foremost, I'm flattered to be a part of the MCIEF. I have been a member from day one as well. I go back to my introduction with Tommy back to 2004 in Atlanta at an AMGA event. I was on the carrier side for the first part of my career, and I'd heard about Tommy. I've heard about the CIC. I heard about the AMGA. When I finally was exposed to it, I said, hey, I found somebody who is a kindred spirit. As you mentioned, John, insurance nerds, truck guys, I knew I found my niche. So I've stumbled into Amwins Transportation Underwriters. We focus 100% on transportation. So I get to talk truck all day long. And a big part of what we do is education. Even as a wholesaler, or MGA, or program administrator, we're dealing with retail agents. We're dealing with motor carriers on a daily basis. And this has been a really good platform to participate in. So I've been nothing but thrilled about this, and hopefully I can be a good apostle. And if you don't know, we don't drink the Kool-Aid with Tommy. We drink red wine with Tommy.
There's one other point I want to make here with Drew. Drew and I are on the Road Dog Radio Show about once a month, channel 146. So y'all can tune in this June 28th between 4 and 5, and you hear Drew and I, and then Jay Taylor join us too. As Mark Willis said, the gang's back here, but Drew and I have a good time talking to the truckers through the radio show once a month.
And let's be clear, if it's not obvious, I've got a face for radio.
Well, y'all do a great job. And to anyone who hasn't listened to Road Dog on Sirius XM, look at our website, read our emails, but most importantly, tune in because it's very entertaining, fast paced. Now, the next person I'm going to introduce was actually, it holds a stunning record. She achieved her CIC designation at the tender age of 7 years old. And she's here to give us a little of that chronology, one of MCIF's most stalwart volunteers and experts, and funny, beautiful, nice, giving, lovely person. And I don't know how to do it any better. Brenda Weiser.
Why, thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Hey, gang, I'm Brenda Weiser. I'm with Reliance Partners now as our Chief Marketing Officer. And I can pretty much sum up everything about Tommy in this sentence. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without him, period. And, you know, as we started talking about putting this together, just this video for the day, I walked into my closet. I have an office closet, and I thought, gosh, you know, all my stuff for MCIEF, I kind of keep in this one corner because I always need this odd example. And Tommy's always got an odd example. Now, I'm going, for those of you that have been in our classes, you know, I'm rummaging through 500 manuals, okay, to try to find this one example he gave us. But I looked down and, you know, I still have a manual from 2013. 2013. There is something in that manual that is so important to me that I will not get rid of it. But what it made me do was start looking at these manuals that I had, and I started looking at these notes in there. And as a matter of fact, while I was sitting there, some of my notes fell out of the of one of my things. I mean, it literally just, this is from 2013. This fell out of the manual, all these notes that I had taken. And I started thinking about the customers that this applied to and how I was able to help them after attending just this conference. This has nothing to do with the classes. This was just the conference. I was able to set my customers up with vendors that I didn't know before, who now I felt 100% confident picking up the phone, calling them, saying, hey, I'm with MCIEF. I need help, or one of my customers needs help, and they were here, for me. But anyway, I digress a little bit. The reason that John is being so nice to me is because I'm so dang old. I'm probably the next oldest to Tommy, I guess, because he's mentioning that I got my CIC in somewhere around 1995, which means I had to have met Tommy before that, because he would have taught many of my CIC classes along with the late, great Jim Harrison. So anyway, I stand on my first comment. I wouldn't be here today without Tommy and without MCIEF. So appreciate everything that it's brought to me and the value I've been able to bring to others by participating.
Brenda, we're not old, we're just seasoned.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'd like to interrupt this podcast to tell Beth Medina if she's got a box of Kleenex, you might want to carry a tissue into Tommy so he can wipe the tears. Because the truth is, Tommy, we're all big fans, and that what you say is funny in some respects, Brenda, but completely sincere with regard to where will we be without Tommy. I think you can ask that question of yourselves, each of us here, and our next board member as well, who we'll get to right now. But that's true of the whole industry. That's my point about Tommy. Where would the industry be without Tommy? Randy, I'm looking at you. You're a handsome man. I don't see your picture, but I know how handsome you are. I know how much of a leader you are at Sentry Insurance and really just in the whole trucking insurance industry. Randy Ramczyk, how are you? Say hello to the group and continue the discussion, please.
I'm good, John. Thank you very much for the intro. And I like Tommy's description of seasoned. I've been with Sentry Insurance for 38 years and in the transportation division 17 years. And I want to say that I met Tommy probably, 12, 15 years ago. And it was through one of our independent insurance agents, actually Scott Lydon, who is also on the board. And I was talking to him and he said, I know this guy who is a walking truck insurance encyclopedia. And we had a fairly new group of underwriting. And so he told us all about MCIEF. And I thought, wow, what a incredible educational opportunity. So I got in contact with Tommy, and I asked him if he could come up to Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which is in the central part of the state, and educate us on truck insurance for a couple of days. And he was kind enough to do that. And we had underwriters, salespeople, operations. Tommy talked about a lot of stuff, filings, underwriting coverages, and just a tremendous amount of stuff. We found it so beneficial. And ever since then, Sentry and I personally have been involved in MCIEF. I participate in the training of the advanced underwriting class. And every time I go to that class and do a part of it, I listen to the other speakers, and every time I seem to learn something new. So, very, very good information, and it's strongly encourage attendance and involvement in the MCIEF. It's done tremendous amount of good for myself personally, as well as a lot of other employees throughout Sentry who have pursued the TRS designation. So just a great organization to be a part of.
When he invited me up, I found out it does snow in Stevens Point in September. I never realized that.
Before we get to you, Tommy, it dawns upon me, as well as I know the folks that have spoken. If you look at the entities, Craig, that are insurance entities on the board, Brenda's, Drew's, and Randy's are powerful organizations that have plenty of resource. And could probably do everything on their own that they need to if MCIEF and Tommy didn't exist. They, you know, it's not that you wouldn't educate yourselves, but here's the point. They choose with their great resource to use MCIEF. And really, from my perspective, to the folks, if this webinar has any impact, it's not to the people that are going to be at the annual meeting, that have been to all the annual meetings. They already understand why they need to be there. It's to the few folks out there that are looking and saying, well, should I attend? The answer is whether you can attend in person, which is highly recommended, or you attend virtually, which is certainly an option. What you're going to get is a whole lot more than what you think you're going to get. The first time, that's universally true, isn't it, everyone? They go, holy cow, I can't get over how good this is, how great it is, how much I've learned. Everybody's got notes like Brenda's. You know, don't worry, Brenda. I'm by far the oldest in the group. I was at an AAMGA meeting, Drew, in 1986 of the Education Committee. The subcommittee, the NAIC had just passed regulations with regard to continuing education for insurance agents, and the whole world was running for the woods because, Lord, does that mean we've got to sit down and really learn something, for Pete's sake? And there was a fellow by the name of John Hayden from Cincinnati who was president of American Modern Home Insurance, and we were on this committee together. And John Hayden said, you know, we were all trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to comply? If we've got 48 non-resident licenses, do I have to do I have to take 48 different sets of education? And from day one, that was kind of a thought, wasn't it, Tommy? But anyway, there was John Hayden said, there's a guy in Fort Myers, Florida by the name of Tommy Ruke, and he's got this stuff figured out. So my first note in that first meeting was a lot shorter than yours, but it had his phone number and his name. And from that moment through right today, with not a single break, Tommy has had a tremendous impact in my life. I think that before we let you speak, Tommy, that everyone watching needs to understand there's a whole lot to MCIEF besides Tommy Ruke. But if, as I described to my wife and to anybody that's listening, none of us, as Brenda said, would be where we are without Tommy. And to me, the stunning thing here in 2022, not to say that you're seasoned, Tommy, would be the fact that you've interrupted twice. You've interrupted to talk about Trucking You. You've interrupted to talk about Road Dog, because there's no one, is there, Craig, that is more immersed in the trucking insurance industry with ideas, with ways to get the point across than the kingpin, Tommy Ruke. And I'm very proud of you, Tommy, because you got something coming up that I want you to talk to the whole crowd about. You got, let me tell you this last story, and I'm going to get to Tommy. The first group of folks that were together, one of them was Lou Welch, who is a legend in the truck insurance industry. He was running Northland Transportation at the time. And so it's the first meeting over the phone about this group that Craig had kind of been involved in the embryonic stage with, and it was going to be known as MCIEF or something like that. And so somebody on the phone, it wasn't Tommy, asked the question, so, well, if we get this thing off the ground, what's our succession plan? I mean, you know, how do we know we can perpetuate this thing? And there was kind of a dead moment of silence, and Lou said, well, I don't think we should worry about secession until we figure out if we can session. And so the point is, from day one, though, and I want you to take us back through the history of the annual conference a little bit, because that has been the signature event for the last 10 years, and that's why we're here today. So I introduce now, and you've been actually very quiet, uncharacteristically so, the kingpin, the pickle man, our friend, the founder of MCIEF and the education director of MCIEF, M. Thomas Ruke.
Well, John, thank you, and thank all those kind words. I don't deserve them, but again, I just have been around and listened a lot and retained a lot. And I guess the two words, encyclopedia, is one of them, because I have facts that rarely does, and the questions answered here. There are two things that you said, Brenda, and you part of it here. One of the reasons I got started the foundation after working for AMGA and CIC was people kept asking, who's going to do this after you can't? So my objective had been for the last 10 years is to develop a program where the information that we've been distributing through me can still be distributed after me. And we are working hard trying to do those things and getting more people involved. And again, everybody here has taught at programs that we put on that's on this panel and other things. We're trying to bring more people in and develop a format to deliver this information in a formal way that makes some sense. One of the things that we have found is that a lot of times you call somebody up, they look at their little narrow perspective, what I do every day, underwriting all this. And what I try and encourage is look at the big picture, because that's important. Part of it is to look beyond what you do every day, see how it fits in the big plan. And so that's the thing we did. When I started the foundation, as we said, we invited some people to come down to Florida and start this thing, and at their own expenses and my own expenses to put it together, and we just hope it would float. And so we wanted to get an annual conference, get everybody together. This replaced two programs we had done, the CIC and AMGA annual conference into one. And we wanted 100 people, and we had 125. The next year we went in, and it really grew because we put it in the briefing room at the Hyatt Hotel in Orlando, and it only said 150. Well, I figured out how to put 190 people in there by putting 8 people on the stage with the speakers and everybody in the aisle too. So it's grown that. The last one we did, conference that was live before COVID, is 2019, and we had 600 people there. We are doing this in the Hyatt Regency in the Orlando airport because 80% of our attendees fly in, and there's no more convenient way to come to a conference than coming into Orlando. If we moved anywhere else, it would take somebody another $50 to $80 to get there and another 2.5 hours with Orlando traffic before the airplane got there. One of the unique thing about it, and I've told this story often, is that we've had a lot of lawyers involved, and Rob Mosley's one of our stellar ones that have been at all conference, but he liked the hotel so much, he had a program there, and he invited some lawyers in, and one of the lawyers rented a car, put in his GPS, asked where it was, and it says you're there. And so this is what here, all you got to do is go up the escalator here. So that's speaking about lawyers who don't look at things before they get someplace. But we have the honor or the recognition of being the largest program the Hyatt's ever had. And the more significant part about this is the biggest bar nights they ever have is our Wednesday and Thursday receptions, because we're the only group that's ever there where everybody's selling everybody else. Most people come there, have someone sponsoring, like your agency, Brenda, who brings people in, so they do that, but everybody's there. So that's the one meet and greet situation. But we have been animate, and as long as I am involved in it, I will be. This is an educational entity. We want the meet and greet, we want people here, but we all want to learn from the same format. One of the things John knows, he used to have 3 competitors in North Carolina, they're all good friends of mine, and they used to not get together often until they joined this. Then all 3 of them became a part of forming the foundation. And this is one thing that took a while to get those people together. Am I right, John? You were friends, but this is the sharing of the stuff. So we fight that part of it, but it's the education part we have. And I learned a long time ago, putting programs together, that we need to listen first to our insurers. For every program we put on an advanced level, we have truckers there. This year we're going to have, like we did before, the head of the, just got it promoted, by the way, Dave Hoyer with the Truckload Carrier Association to update Washington part of it. And we're going to have a panel of truckers. John and I were privileged, Joe and I were privileged in judging the truckload carrier safety fleet. And we're going to have a couple of those people there, including the president of Truckload Carriers, John Elliott, who's actually attended our conference on his own nickel before he was the president of TCA. And then we have a bunch of lawyers involved in it too, which we have to. They're our good friends. They're our good lawyers. Our friend Jay and Bridget and Joe, Greg Ferry, and Bridget Blex and Fred Metzelnack. and they're all there, and they come. And we've had a panel one time, and even lawyers say they want to come. We get calls all the time wanting to be on our program. So we try to have a mixed education, and part of our program is to look in the future. And this is one thing we always want to do, is kind of push the envelope. What's going to happen the year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So we have people like Ellen Vorrier with the Women's in Trucking. She there shares what she envisions to expand the driver pool that we talk about. Drew's always, he's my go-to person, hazmat. I get tired of questions. Why do I know my limits? So I'm going to give Drew a page to talk about these. So if you want to talk about the hazmat, then he's going to spend some time with us discussing where the limits come from and the coverage and how to clean up and the things like we do things like that. So this is what we have planned. It's going to be a dynamite program. It does have opportunities for CE, state CE, as we said, for 16 hours. You can do your update for CIC, which is unique. We're the only program that CIC allows people to attend that they don't put on, they don't do. In fact, we have provided the CE education, even for a program CIC's done. This because of our unique relationship with the states, because of this unique program. And John, we get the virtual and live. The live is there, the meet and greet, that's important. But we don't want to de-emphasize the education part too. So we try to blend those. This is why we have a couple of receptions involved here to give time to meet and greet. And we also separate the time frames to within every morning and afternoon session. We give 30 minutes for people to get together and talk to each other, so to break up the education part. But I'm proud of the foundation, and I thank the people who made it. It's not me. If everybody here didn't think it was needed, we wouldn't have happened. We learned a lot in the last 3 years. We learned how to do a Zoom meeting that we're doing today. We learned, before this, we did voice over PowerPoint. We learned how to provide a program that is remotely and people in attendance. In fact, the upcoming advanced coverage and underwriting, Beth has said we're going to have a dozen people in the room with us, and then we're going to have 40 people or more zooming in. So we've ended up with a nice blend between the two, and we have as many speakers as we can in the room itself. But once they can't make it, like Randy, we'll let them do it and join virtually. So we have learned a lot in the last 2 or 3 years how to make our program even more available to more people over more different areas and more variety. And that's our objective, is still to give the quality of education that we're used to for the unique business of how to insure for-hire interstate motor carriers. And that's been our objective to start with. And so I just am thankful for y'all and thankful for the good Lord. And our perpetuation plan was, Brenda, I lost 60 pounds. That was the plan. And I have accomplished to do that part of it, which requires me to walk many miles and do things like that. But that was where my plan was, other than having y'all involved to also go beyond this. But I have one requirement, and I said it this morning, Brenda. Any program I'm going to do in the future, I had it written in my contract to go beyond that, to use my information properly, is you got to talk about pickles and cucumbers. If you don't do that, you cannot put a program on sometime within that program. But John, that's about all I've got to say, other than thank you and thank everybody. But Orlando's going to be a great time. The educational effort, if you can't get to Orlando, do it virtually, is a great time. It's unique. We get this one time a year, and we try to put things together that are relevant today to make you as a retail agent, you as an underwriter, you as an insurance company, you as an adjuster, to be able to take care of your trucker better, not only today, but 2 or 3 years from now, because we try to stay that far ahead.
I think you've done a perfect job, Tommy. In a synopsis, here's the first thing that everyone listening needs to understand. 600 people is all that this hotel will hold. And I'll be shocked if we're not at capacity early. So to your coworkers, to your friends, if you have an interest, if you have a thought, I would register as soon as possible if you're planning to be in Orlando. And of course, you'll save money on the flights if you can book them early too, generally speaking. The second thing is, and you alluded to it, and so did everybody else, because Drew's a teacher, Brenda's taught, Randy teaches, Craig teaches, I've taught. And with the exclusion of myself, I'm going to say that one of the pleasant surprises, and this also doesn't, y'all, don't you agree it relates to Tommy? He literally can uncover from, don't ask me where, the exact person to talk about this subject this year, because this is what's hot and here's what you need to know. And I found the person, and they flew down here on their own dime, and now they're going to teach us for free. Well, when I say for free, the point is nobody has to do what you're doing, Craig, and what you're doing, Drew, and what you're doing, Randy, what you're doing, Brenda, but you're doing it because you like it, because you get a lot out of it. And so the teamwork, Tommy, that you have instilled in us is something that I'm grateful for as well. You know, so I'm going to tell you this story, and then I want y'all to all talk about what I'm getting ready to say from your perspective. Without mentioning names, I guess it was 2019. I haven't missed an annual conference, but I was having dinner with an individual that ran an insurance company transportation division. And this is what he said, y'all. He said, this is the best meeting that we go to all year. And I said, you mean education meeting? He said, no, this is the best meeting that we go to all year. He said, I'm going to tell you why. He said, first of all, it's not expensive, so I can afford to bring my important people here. Second, it's the only meeting that I go to where I really learn something every time I'm here that I kind of think I should have already known, and everybody that works for me should have absolutely known. Third is that I see my competitors, yes, but I also see the people that I want to do business with and the folks that I need to say hello to and that I can plan with. And so I would say, Tommy, that when you say that as long as you're involved, MCIE, it's education, will foundation, the E is going to be the dominant part. It is. The education is, as we had said, it's night and day. It's really lousy as an industry, what you go, the CE that you can go get, versus if we teach a class with CE, it's really, really, really good. And we know that because everybody tells us that, and because we got Tommy leading the show. But what I would like for y'all to speak about to folks that may be thinking about coming to MCIEF are the other advantages that you have received as a result of your involvement at the annual meeting. What you think you can be accomplished. And we'll kind of go backwards here and let Randy, then Brenda, then Drew, and then Craig speak to that.
Sure. Well, first off, the networking opportunities at the conference are incredible. We've got our own conference here up in Wisconsin each year, and literally the producers, we work with retail agents, and I would say the majority of the producers that come to our conference are also at this annual conference. So it's an opportunity to see folks again, talk about specific issues or accounts. There's opportunity to meet new people. Every time we go there, you always meet new people, and you learn a lot of stuff. The education part of it, the conferences I've attended virtually the last couple of years because of COVID and restrictions to travel. But whether you're there in person or virtually, you attend these meetings and you get so much out of it because they're current stuff. It's current issues going on in the trucking industry, and whether it's nuclear verdicts or claims litigation or underwriting coverage forms, cyber, it's just so many variety of topics that you can't walk away without learning something from these instructors who are top-notch instructors. And then you parlay that with all the people you meet and see and greet, and it's just it's definitely the best trucking conference out there that exists. You walk away and you have fun too. It's a lot of fun getting together in the evenings for dinner and the lunches, and you just socialize, and it's very, very highly recommended.
Awesome. Well spoken. So Brenda, now you have to say something completely unique, which is not hard for you.
Golly. Okay. Thanks, Randy, for making me follow you. I'm glad I wasn't last on this topic. So, two things kind of pop out to me right away. A little bit piggybacking on what Randy said, but the current topics. So all of us are bombarded 24/7 with emails. Here's information, go here. What do we all have time to do? We have time to read 2 sentences of an industry update. I don't have time to read a 10-minute article, just don't have time. But the great thing about coming to this conference is I'm in a room, I can sit back, I can listen, I can enjoy from start to finish, and I can really learn something in detail. These seminar sessions are not high level. We don't gloss over just the high points. We get into the weeds on everything, and we take as many questions as people have. And that sometimes helps guide the conversation in that room. But that's the beauty of it, is that I can really learn something. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. You can always be better and always learn more. And I can tell you, I feel very humbled every time I leave one of these seminars, because I know that a lot of people look to me as a knowledge leader. But I have to tell you, I learned so much at these, so it's so helpful. The other comment I wanted to make was, when I think back, of the many years that I've been attending, and, you kind of look to the left and you look to the right, and, the guy next to you is an underwriter and the guy over here is, just an agent like you are. And, you know where all those people are at now? They're presidents of insurance companies. They're presidents of agencies. They're executive suite people. They're the knowledge leader at what they do. That is what makes this unique right there. Those are my 2 comments.
Those are excellent points. And Drew, as we come to you, so is it fair to say that the quality on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to rank the crowd, right? Speakers we've talked about, but if you rank the crowd, it's a crowd of, it's a good crowd. It's a crowd of leaders. Is that fair to say?
Very much so. In fact, I would view it as the who's who of transportation insurance. And as we mentioned before, it's carrier personnel, it's wholesalers, it's MGAs, it's retailers, it's truckers, it's everybody that has some touch on the transportation business, and it truly is the best and brightest. And I like to say, hey, I might not be the smartest person in the room, but I'll be in the room, and we're in the room with those smartest people. So it's amazing what we do learn and what we're able to share annually with these folks. And as Tommy mentioned, it's really forward looking as well. It's not talking about just what's happening today. It's trying to look out 12 months, 18 months, a couple of years, and anticipate that. And what I view that as is a unfair advantage, if you will. Those folks that attend this have a unique ability to be better than the competition. And as I often say, if you're not there, you better be damn certain that your competition's there. So perhaps it's in your best interest to be there. I can't really say a whole lot more that Randy and Brenda didn't share, but I will say this, that I do believe the networking that we have, the opportunity we have, is phenomenal. I use this as a very large agency visit. A ton of the folks that I do business with are there every year. So it's basically a speed dating opportunity for me. And unfortunately, I just hope nobody swipes left. But for the most part, it's a great opportunity to sit there, break bread, visit with folks, learn something, share some expertise, and have a good time.
And red wine and cheap white wine, right? Drew, he said break bread. I was thinking about other than breaking bread.
Well, I've watched you, all of you, and Drew, what I'll say is you move fast at this meeting. I don't see you sitting on the sofa just twiddling your thumbs, and that would be the point about what's possible. It's like anything, right? It's what you make of it. But the point about this is kind of dropped in your lap to some degree. If you don't make something out of this opportunity, then you might want to step back and examine your commitment to excellence. And Craig, that leaves you last. You've got I don't say a unique perspective, but of the folks that service the trucking insurance industry, you certainly have had the most involvement with MCIEF, as we mentioned, all the way back to really before MCIEF began. And I have grown to admire your commitment to MCIEF because I don't consider you to be a salesperson. And Brenda put it well the other day in a meeting we had. She said, you know, there's no such thing as a vendor. Everyone that is giving something to Tommy's MCIEF is a giver. You're a giver of your expertise and of knowledge, and you've done so freely. So I'm sure that you can tell us that you have started some important business relationships as a result of being at the annual conference.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And it's tough to follow such an respectable crowd here on this webinar. But John is right. You know, the business I've built deals with all facets of the industry, and from carriers to brokers to MGAs, wholesalers, and motor carriers. And so I'm happy to be in the position to see everything that's going on. And one of the great things about the conference is we all get too busy in our daily activities. You know, it's like they say, you're too busy chopping down trees to see the forest. And I would say the best value that the annual conference has brought to me and my company is the ability to step back, take 2 or 3 days, and look at the big picture. Look at all the trends in the industry. The experts that Tommy has participating in the conference, they're best in class. And if you sit back and listen to what every one of them is talking about, you get a whole new perspective on, hey, it's not my little microcosm of truck insurance I need to focus on. It's a world. It's a global perspective. And with that, what comes to mind is I sit there all the time saying, wow, I'm just a tiny little pea in this massive sea of information and education. And what keeps me going is just my desire to learn more and understand what's going on with the industry. And for anybody who's listening to this webinar, I would really encourage you to take the blinders off and get involved, because this is your opportunity to go to the conference, go to the classes, and, you know, build your own future in this industry. You know, make it happen. It's your responsibility. And if enough people do that, MCIEF can continue to make a big difference, you know, in the truck insurance space. So I'm just proud to have been a member from the inception. And the parting words would be, it's the big picture, guys. You need to look at the whole industry, not just your piece of it. And the whole industry will be represented at this year's annual conference.
Well spoken, Craig. I'm not sure that Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, but maybe C-SPAN or something like that might have something to worry about from a presentation such as this. And panel, I'm here to say we have a question from one of our viewers. I'd like to read it, and then I'd like for y'all to answer the question. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. This is great. How do I register? You know, come to think of it, we might let everybody know what they need to do if they want to come join Mr. Ruke and all of his fabulous speakers, right? And you find people. How do you register, Craig?
If you go on to the MCIEF.org website, I'll spell it, MCIEF.org. You can go to the events, annual conference, and if you click the buttons, there is a registration form.
Have your credit card ready, and the form will take you, I'd say, 2 minutes to fill out. When you are completed with registration, you will receive automatically a confirmation of your registration, and it includes instructions to do something very important, which, yes. By the way, Tommy, Marcy Ferguson has had to bail me out at least 3 times with regard to the instructions I didn't follow. Who knows what instructions I didn't follow when I got my registration confirmation? Who knows? What did I not do, Brenda?
You did not sign up for your hotel room.
Oh, and sleeping on those airport benches is a tough deal to be comfortable more than, an hour or so.
You definitely want to sign up early for the conference so you can get your hotel room booked. That is most important. You never want to have to leave the building once you're there because everything is right there for you. It's so convenient.
But if you don't, just want to remind you, we do have a relationship with the Hyatt off premise. So in 2019, we had 50 rooms in the Hyatt off premise, and they ran a special shuttle with us to meet our meetings just for our group to get there. So we do have off-site accommodations, which are within 5 miles of the hotel. But yes, the hotel itself is unique and get there. We represent about 90% of their rooms. Our block is.
We have a discounted rate. Your registration email contains the link. All you have to do is literally click the link and make your reservation right then and there. But as they say, when the inn is full, there is no room in the inn. And so what I do, I don't know about anybody watching other than us, but if I wasn't interested before now, I'm pretty excited about this 10th annual meeting of the MCIEF at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, Orlando International Airport, October 5th through 7th. And it is appropriate to note, Drew, that the first event of the annual conference is a red wine cocktail party. That clock tells me that it is 45 minutes past the hour, and we wanted to go 45 minutes. So Randy, Brenda, Drew, Craig, and Tommy, any parting thoughts?
I just want to say something. For those who haven't been to the annual conferences in the past, it's highly recommended to show up Wednesday afternoon because the networking all starts by usually 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. that Wednesday. So a lot's happening before the opening ceremonies Thursday morning.
Absolutely.
So,
And when you book airline flights, depending on if you're going to stay for the 12 hours that we required to update your TRS or CE, we do have the 4 hours in the afternoon. If you want to leave, you only need about an hour between the time it's finished to get the plane, as long as you got carry-on luggage and you are clear for TSA. So that's another real advantage. We don't have to waste a lot of time in a shuttle or taxi driving from the outer hotels. We've looked at them all, but every one of them outside, even with more capacity, just adds different dollars and different time frames. So this is why we're kind of hooked into the Hyatt in the airport.
Randy and Brenda and Drew and Craig, if you go to where Craig said, mcief.org, events annual conference, if you want to look over to the left, the agenda is listed. The timeline, therefore, that details Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, and Friday afternoon, 16 hours total, possible education, 2 meet and greet receptions, and probably, it's an oxymoron, but it's kind of fun insurance. Thank you all very much for your time today. Enjoy your evening, and we'll meet again soon, right?
See you in
See you
Orlando.
there.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.